Hey, welcome back. Today, we're going to talk about American pain. Not the pain that we feel as Americans, but I guess sort of, sort of, sort of. I mean, yes, that's where this comes from, but not. I didn't know what the title was until I watched the documentary, and now I understand it. It was actually the name of a place. So that's why they chose the name. Um, Somebody actually named their business American Pain. So there you go. This on HBO Max with audio description. So that's good. It's a new documentary from this year. I think this was at Sundance. This was at some film festival because I saw reviews for it a while ago. I saw some people talking about it. I want to say it was at Sundance. I think this got picked up at Sundance. I'm positive. I'm like 90% sure. Correct me in the comments if you think I'm wrong, but I think this was picked up at Sundance. And it is the story of Chris and Jeff George. No relation to Paul George. I'm sure Paul George quickly quickly tweeted about that. I was like, listen, just in case. I want to say, I don't know these people. And they were sort of giant pains in the asses down here in Florida, apparently. It's funny how this happened in Florida. During the time I was living in Florida, I had no idea it was happening. It technically didn't really happen in my area. The areas in which these guys were operating was not where I live. So it wouldn't have been necessarily in my local news. It would have been in other areas local news is. But I was just like, man, I was here. Do I remember? So what, is this on the news? Because it feels like this epic thing that's happening sort of in multiple cities across the state. And then when they talk about how Florida became sort of this haven for these pain places during the Oxy boom, because our laws sucked. Yay, Florida. Think I could make this political and say we've had a certain type of legislation since about 1998. So if you have a problem with the Florida laws and you feel like they're too lax and you're like, why did Florida get away with this? I'm gonna tell you, it has, it's there's a reason for that. We've been red for a while. Jokes about us being purple, not true. And these guys actually set up these pain clinics where they had addicts, and they loved the fact that they were moving mass amounts of pills. And it focuses on other pills too. And I definitely was triggered a little bit because it's like, I take Xanax, and to keep hearing them name dropping Xanax, I was like, you're making me feel dirty. Please stop. Please stop. So it's it is that kind of documentary though. It feels like we made, we continued on from the dope sick of the world, and we made a documentary that continued to sort of talk about the story about how busloads of people, literally people were renting buses and getting addicts. I want to know that story. That's the story I want to know, is how, like, what? Addicts were motivated enough to rent a bus or buy a bus and then gather each other up locally in the area and then drive down so they can get their pills. Anyway, we have underestimated to the lengths at which people will go to get their fix. But it was happening. They were coming down, and even though these guys had some sort of a system, it was kind of a bullshit system. And the filmmakers here, they're interviewing these brothers in jail, sort of like with Tiger King, how we heard from Joe Exotic from behind bars. And then there's also just like archival footage, because these guys definitely feel like the kind of people who want to be on camera, except when it's like a news camera and they're asking them about their business and they're like, no, get away from me. Yeah, these are just kind of like, I don't know, pharma bros. I know we use that term usually to mean the other guy, but these guys kind of feel like it too. Like they really didn't care, and I love when they're talking about opening up the one store, and they're talking about how one of the guys wants to put a pool table in there, and he's like, "The fuck do we need a pool table for? It's a doctor's office." But these guys, they have like, and they're, they think it's cool. They think it's cool to have like Chinese throwing stars in their office, and it's like, why do you have this shit? Like nobody stopped to ask. It's one of those things where it's like, I mean, I get the fact that sometimes people get roped into things not knowing that they're illegal, but when your boss has like a katana, and shields and throwing stars and stuff, chances are your business is not a legitimate doctor's office and you shouldn't be working there. What you are doing is not real. What you're doing is fake. So I feel like some of those things would have been an indicator to me if I'd gotten the job. I'd have been like, this is odd. I've never seen a doctor's office with a pool table before. Maybe this isn't one. It's sad, it's tragic, but it doesn't. This one focuses kind of on these guys, and so you can kind of laugh at it. It's like it sort of assumes that you know about Oxy and how many people have died from it, and it doesn't really need to spend half the documentary on that. It just spends it on these guys. It's kind of a little bit more focused, like I wanted All the Beauty and the Bloodshed to be. I felt like All the Beauty and the Bloodshed was trying to wave around the prescription drug angle, and it ended up being sort of just a documentary about the person, and less about the cause. This one is about the crime, and it's not really a biopic about these guys. It's just you end up learning so much about them because they're sort of iconically stupid, yet somehow made a ton of money with moving through loopholes. And they came from money themselves. Their dad was wealthy. He was a developer and built houses down in Florida. They worked for him for a while. These two guys were in and out of jail their whole lives. You learn a lot about these guys throughout the movie, and their stupidity is entertaining. And I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the documentary. It actually has a fair amount of narration because it's not totally. It doesn't feel like it's talking head. It does kind of feel like it's trying to talking head and then show you some stuff and then talk and then show you some stuff and like there are some points and some moments where the narration can break through, but still I find that for documentaries, the narration, the audio description is still really hard to get excellent audio description in. So it always kind of ends up being best case scenario audio description. You still kind of have people who speak who you're not really ever sure who they are, because either they always speak right after somebody and they don't always get named, or the mention of them was so cursory and there's like a bunch of different people speaking that they never get mentioned again. So it's like if you didn't immediately match the sound of their voice to that name, you're lost from that point on. So it just depends on how much you really want to know who's speaking and why that person is valuable to the context of the story. For me, I find that to be definitely a huge factor in these documentaries, because you have people who are on both sides of the story. You have people who were sort of like other accomplices, people who knew them from their, who knew these guys from the past. You actually have the guys calling in from jail. You have the investigators who actually worked on the case. So there's a whole bunch of different people coming at it from different angles. And I know that if when I could see, that I would just always be visually associating and be like, oh, it's that guy. Oh, it's this guy. Oh, it's that girl. Oh, it's, it's just, it is what it is. It's a lot easier. With documentaries, it's a lot harder to track the voices, and we can't always get the names, because then you'd be talking on top of somebody. And oftentimes what these characters have to say is more important than knowing who they are. It's just really weird. So it's a vicious circle, but that's very typical of documentaries with audio description. So I think it's fine for what it is. I think they tried. I can tell when a documentary doesn't try. When a documentary has the opportunity and there are breaks and they didn't use them. And there's a clear break and it's like, I could have said somebody's name there and you didn't. I didn't feel like that was the case here. I think American Pain actually sets that up and does a pretty good job of it. So, give it a check. Give it a little look-see. It's pretty entertaining, even though it's not really supposed to be, because, I don't know, these guys are just they're like Tiger King. It's these guys are, I feel like there could be some sort of a series like that for them, where we could watch these guys do their thing and somehow be entertained by that. Like we watched Kate McKinnon's series on Peacock with about coming out of Tiger King. Anyway, not the brightest bulbs in the room. I'm gonna give American Pain an A-. I thought it was a pretty solid documentary. I have no idea what its Oscar potentials are this year, but I would watch it again and I would recommend it. So it's up there. I don't know I don't know, with it being HBO Max, I don't know if it got a theatrical run, so I don't know where it stands. Although it's entirely possible this could be in the conversation, and if so, I wouldn't be surprised if it at least got shortlisted. But sometimes the documentary branch goes way out for their documentaries. Anyway, that's it. Thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. And I have a website, macthemovieguy.com. You can follow me on Twitter, Instagram at macthemovieguy. You can go to the audio description project, adp.acb.org. It'll let you know what is audio description, where you can watch it. And you can go to the ADNA.org. That's the ADNA.org. It'll let you know who is working on the narration for your favorite films and television series. That's it. I will review something else for you guys, and see you on the other side.